Hello and welcome to this video. This is video number 2 in my series of Bridgerton season 4 videos. I have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to be talking my thoughts, my feelings about the first half of season 4. And along with that, there may be some spoilers. I'm not going to go in depth in the play-by-play of how they've decided to adapt the story from the book into the show. I'm not going to go through every scene moment by moment, but there may be spoilers. I'm going to be going through my thoughts and feelings about certain characters and choices they make. Just a fair warning to you. If you're not interested in that, then you might want to watch this video after you've watched Bridgerton season 4. With that said, I have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Okay, starting with the central romance premise and our main couple, Sophie and Benedict. I love Sophie. I love Sophie so much more in this show than I did in the book. I feel like they bring out parts of her that are in the book. Like, Sophie is opinionated and she feels very strongly about things, but in the book, she keeps all of that to herself. She keeps all of that to herself, except for at the ball. In the show, we actually see that after the ball, and she doesn't hold back. She's still respectful in her role as a maid. She's still respectful of that hierarchy, but you can still see she still expresses her thoughts, her opinions, herself, her voice. You still see her and what she's thinking and feeling more than you do in the book, which I like a lot more, because by the end of the book, I was so sick of Sophie holding all of this in that I almost just started ignoring all of it, because I'm like, if you're not going to express this to anybody else, then why does it matter to the story? It's not changing or affecting anything in the story. And so, yeah, I didn't like her in the book, but I'm really liking her in the show. I really like how Urian Ha is playing her. And just a few moments I want to call out specifically. If we're talking about the ball, I love that she called Benedict out, and I love that she kind of turned the tables on him, and when he's like interviewing her or whatever, she's like, wait, are you just asking me all these questions because you don't want anybody to get to know you better or get to know you on a deeper level? Like, are you just trying to hide that and like distract from not wanting to share that with people? I liked that moment. We just got to see that like she sees through him a little bit, and I liked that. I feel like that's a good moment to have in a romance. I also love that at the end of the ball, she kissed him. He's holding back. He's like, no, this is improper. I don't want to tarnish your reputation. And so she's about to run away, but then she runs back and kisses him anyway. I love it. I love that moment. I thought it was so cute. Another moment that I really liked, and this is a change from the book, and I think it seems like a small change, but it did so much for me in terms of like just me liking Sophie more. It's that when Benedict saves Sophie and rescues her from those men, it's because she's already saved her friend. In the show, her friend is the one about to be assaulted, and Sophie comes in to save her friend, and then as she's running away, she twists her ankle. And so that just felt so much more like this Sophie, who is, like I said, who has some fire to her, who has strong opinions, who knows what's right and wrong, and who like feels this like sense of, yeah, what's right and wrong. And so to see her stand up for her friend and protect her friend, even though she knew that something could happen to her, those guys could just as easily turn around and do the same thing to her. She did it anyway, and I like that. Yeah, I just like that Sophie better than the Sophie in the book. If you haven't figured out by now, I didn't really like how Sophie was in the book. If you want more details, you can go check out my last video and hear all of it. Okay, Benedict, let's move on to our main man. I'm still kind of annoyed. He's having these moments with Sophie when they first meet, and that like first night they're together, he's having these like flashbacks or whatever of being with the woman at the ball, this like Cinderella girl at the ball, and he keeps having these flashbacks, but he doesn't actually think to himself, why am I having these flashbacks? What is it about this girl that is making me think of the Cinderella girl? Could it be that she looks like that girl? We just see these flashbacks, and that bugs me. I'm like, Benedict, you are a smart guy. You've literally drawn this girl. You have a picture, this little sketch of her in the mask. Hold up that sketch next to this girl, and you will see they are the same girl. So anyway, just a little bit annoyed by that. Another thing that I'm confused by, Benedict feels different in this season than he does in the previous seasons. He just seems a little less interesting to me. I can't quite put my finger on what it is in this season, in the story, in the way he's being portrayed. I don't know what it is, but he just seems a little bit less interesting than he has in past seasons, which is weird to me because he's the main character this season. Shouldn't he be the most interesting character here? But no, it seems like, I don't know, there's something about it that just seems a little bit off with him. Not like he's a completely different person this season than he has in the past, but there's just a little bit of a difference that I feel like I've noticed. It might just be a me thing. But feels a little bit weird. And I love that he's searching for his Cinderella. I love that we get to see that. Now obviously most of that happens in like the second episode, but I like that it's also come up in like subsequent episodes. Even if it's just mentioned here or there, I like that the search is a part of this story because it wasn't featured in the book. Now to talk about Sophie and Benedict together as a couple, I was really struck by the music and just thought that really added to the whole fairy tale moment of them meeting, and I loved that. I did. I loved the music. I thought it was cute. I thought it added to the whimsy of the moment and the magic of the moment. Speaking of music, I really liked the use of Enchanted by Taylor Swift in this season so far, and I also love Bad Idea Right by Olivia Rodrigo. I really like where that's placed. I like that these two are actually talking once they get to his cottage after the ball, after the whole ordeal where he saves her and her friend from being assaulted. I love that they actually are talking about his art, because that comes up in the book where she's like looking at all of his artwork, but they never talk about it. And I'm like, no, talk to him. This is a good moment for you to talk about something that, like, I don't know. So that was something that I liked. That's in the show that wasn't in the book but should have been in the book. And then also another thing that I like, a slight change from what happens in the book to here. And it's just the progression makes it feel less drastic. And that is when Benedict asks Sophie to be his mistress. In the book, I get that at the time period that was a common thing for men to do, was to have mistresses. But when you're reading the book, I don't know, at least for me, I like to believe that the men in these books are decent men that I might be interested in myself. And so I don't like to just assume that they just think that's what you do. You just have mistresses. And so when Benedict mentioned that in the book, it was kind of like, I thought you were like a decent guy though. Like, where is this coming from? Then I was like, okay, well, yeah, I guess it's a part of the time period or whatever. So I guess I just had to assume that going into this book, and so I shouldn't be surprised by that, but I am. Anyway, the way the whole mistress thing came up, it felt a little bit, I wasn't quite so shocked by it, and I'm still disappointed that Benedict would even suggest that, but alas, he did. But I'm less disappointed because I was prepared for it, because there were these little breadcrumbs related to that before it actually was suggested by Benedict. It was a little bit easier to digest that when it came up. It was now, I've been putting this part off. Like I've mentioned so far, I like a lot about this show, and I think Benedict and Sophie are very cute together. They're so cute together. They have some cute moments. They have some funny banter here and there, and I want them to end up together. I do. I just don't need them to end up together. Do you feel me? In previous seasons, with previous couples, I have watched it, and I have just, by this point in the show, I've needed them to get together. I'm just like, hurry up and get together already. Here, I know they're gonna get together, and like, I want them to, and it's cute, but I don't need it. There's not that tension. There's not this, like, you know, and I don't know what it is. I felt similarly in season 3, and I wonder if part of it has to do with the way they have done season 3 and season 4, where they've released one half of the season at a time. I wonder if that has something to do with it, or if it's just different writers. I know there's also a different showrunner for season 3 and season 4 than there was previously. I wonder if that has something to do with it. I don't know what it is, but like, I'm not feeling the need for these characters to get together. I want them to, but I don't need them to. So that's that. Okay, now that we've talked about Benedict and Sophie and the main romance plotline of Bridgerton season 4 so far, I want to talk about some of the other things that are going on in this season and how I'm feeling about those other subplots and characters and everything. I've kind of organized this by character, so let's start off with Queen Charlotte. I want to say that the part in the first episode when the queen has to see Penelope to get a sneak peek on next edition of Lady Whistledown, that felt very contrived. That felt very, oh, this will make for a good trailer. That's what that felt like to me. And the wager, I'm sure, will turn into something. I'm sure that will get wrapped up in the next part of the show. But so far, the whole thing between the Queen and Penelope just feels kind of forced to me. And especially the part where the Queen needed a sneak peek. Although it was funny, and although I was like, oh, ha ha ha, of course the Queen wants a sneak peek, it felt like a marketing gimmick to me. So that's my thought. Just a quick thought on that part of the Queen's storyline in this season. As for the relationship between the Queen and Lady Danbury and what's happening there, that just... And the fact that Brimsley sneaks out of the palace to go plead with Lady Danbury to make up her friendship with the Queen and everything, that part just makes me sad because I like the Queen. She's out of touch and she is very demanding, and as a friend, I don't know if I'd want her to be my friend, but also I do really like the Queen Charlotte season of Bridgerton, and I feel like that just gives so much more to her character, seeing what her life is like, what her love is like, what, she is dealing with, because she is the Queen. Like, yes, she gets to boss people around and she gets what she wants the second she requests it, which is nice, but also she's very lonely, and so that part kind of broke my heart, the fact that that's coming out. But I also get Lady Danbury's side of the coin, where she's just, I'm tired, I'm old, I just want to think of myself and do what's right for me, and I've been here long enough, I've been such a central figure to this whole community for long enough that now I just want to go do my own thing and do what's best for me and reconnect with myself. And so that I also understand. That story is interesting to me because I can see both sides so well, and like I can relate and completely understand both sides. But I will say that I will really miss Lady Danbury if she is in fact leaving, and if that means she's leaving the show entirely as well. I will really miss her. Okay, Eloise. Let's talk about Eloise Bridgerton for a second. First of all, I really like some of her costumes this season. I love that she was dressed up as Joan of Arc at the masquerade, and I love some of her other costumes as well. We'll get into one of them in particular in a second, but I'm just really liking her costumes. To get a little bit deeper, I have really liked seeing Eloise this season. Something that stood out to me in the first episode is how she is kind of stepped into this like big sister role with Hyacinth, and I really liked that. I saw that and I was like, ooh, I want more of that. And along with Hyacinth, I was disappointed that only really existed in the first episode. After that, Eloise goes back to being her stubborn, I think this whole society thing is stupid and I'm gonna read my books in the corner, and I love her for that, but I liked seeing her be the big sister because it was new for her. And it also made sense to me that, after she got to go visit Scotland with Francesca, like she grew and now she's ready to be a different, more evolved version of herself. And so I was excited to see like a slightly different side to Eloise instead of being the stubborn younger sister. Now that a lot of her older siblings are off doing their own thing, they're off and married, she's now like the oldest. She and Benedict are the oldest, and now he himself has fallen in love and trying to find his Cinderella. And so she really is like the oldest one that's like at home, that's like with the younger kids. And so like I was looking forward to seeing her be that older sister figure, and that was it. Just that one moment in the first episode. I hope to see more of that in the second part of this season, given the interaction between Hyacinth and Eloise. The fourth episode, where Hyacinth is like, why do you hate me? I think you're like closing yourself off, you're isolating yourself, you only seem to care about yourself. So I think that interaction might lead to more of a relationship between Eloise and Hyacinth, and I would be interested to see how that develops. But so I hope that happens, but who knows? I feel like there's just a lot going on in this season with a lot of different characters, and I feel like there's might not be time for everything, which is unfortunate, but we'll get more into that later too. I think the fact that Eloise declared herself on the shelf is very her, and one of the costumes I noticed in particular this season of hers that I really liked is like there was this dress that had this like the print of the dress was like this wood grain, and I thought that was kind of clever that they made a dress for her like that, because it's like, oh look, she is the shelf. And that's just something I noticed, and I'm curious to see if, assuming Eloise, her story is next season, I'm curious to see if they start to develop or like hint at any of that in this season. In the last 4 episodes of this season, I'm curious to see that, because I do know in the books she falls in love by writing letters to somebody, so I'm curious to see if we start to see letters coming to her, if we start to see her writing letters, because I feel like that's a fun romance trope in books, but it's harder to make a whole season of a TV show where two people are just exchanging letters interesting. And so I feel like it might make sense for that to start now. We start seeing the letters come in now. But what happens in next season is Eloise and Sir Philip, but like see them actually come together and like meet in person for the first time or something like that. So I'm curious to see if that happens in the second half of season 4. But also, again, I feel like there's so much going on that to add something like that takes away time from other things that they've already kind of set up. So who knows? But I think that would be interesting. Okay, let's talk about my favorite character, Francesca. Again, we're going to start off with a very surface level observation. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's just stunning and beautiful, and I love her hair. Every time I see her on screen, I am just blown away by how gorgeous her hair is. So there's my very deep observations about Francesca. To get more into her character and her story, I think this between her and Penelope, where she's like, okay, I don't understand this and you need to give it to me straight. I loved that and I relate to that. I feel like there are lots of things in my life where people have tried to explain things to me and I'm like, why are you using a metaphor right now? I don't even understand what this is, so the metaphor means nothing to me. Can you just be real with me? So that was a moment that I saw and I related to, and it just reminded me that Francesca and I are the same person. I'm kind of annoyed by the whole Michaela thing. I'm not annoyed that she is a woman. I think that's great. I am annoyed that she was introduced at the end of season 3 and she is becoming a larger part of the story in this season. I'm annoyed by that because I'm concerned that she isn't going to get a season of her own, that she's been relegated to being like this side romance plot. I like Francesca and I want to see more of her, and I would love to see a season that explores her, where she is the main character and we do get to really understand everything about her. But the way that they're treating her romance, it feels like they're speeding things up, like they're trying to rush it, like they're trying to like squeeze Michaela in so that she can fall in love with Michaela in the background while Benedict is falling in love with Sophie, and I don't like that. I want Francesca to have her own season. So there's that. Now let's talk about the moms, okay? Violet and the evil stepmom. But first Violet, after she's had her little interview with Sophie, trying to figure out who Sophie really is, doing her little detective interview with Sophie, she says to Lady Danbury that she thinks that Sophie is running from something and she just wants to protect Sophie. She says that, and I just was so happy to hear that, because throughout the book, like, Sophie is the same way, but like nobody ever acknowledges that. Nobody ever says, oh, like they notice it. They're like, she seems kind of nervous, but nobody ever says it out loud. Nobody acknowledges it. That really frustrated me. I'm like, can we try to get to know Sophie? Can we try, even if we don't completely understand what she's running from, can we try and let her know that she's safe? Let her know that we will protect her? But that didn't happen as much in the book as I would have liked. So the fact that Violet is saying that out loud to someone else, and I just hope that we explore that a little bit more in the second half of season 4, because that is something I wish would have been addressed a little bit more in the book. And for my surface level costume appearance comment for Violet, I thought her late night tea outfit was very cute. And good for her having her late night tea. Everybody drinks tea. Okay, the evil stepmom. The actress doing a great job. The evil stepmom, the evil stepsisters, all of them are great. Talking about the evil stepmom, for somebody who thinks that she is so superior to Sophie, so above Sophie, she really does not have good manners at all. Not just with Sophie, but with anybody. I feel like she is very rude to everybody, but particularly rude and particularly cruel and vindictive towards Sophie. And so for somebody who just thinks herself so highly, but she's the bad guy, she's the villain, of course she would think that she's all that, and she's really just mean to everybody and everybody hates her. And I think the way that she tells Sophie, oh yeah, your mom was just a maid and she was a mistress and whatever, she wasn't anybody important and all of that, at Sophie's dad's funeral, that was brutal. The fact that Sophie didn't know that at all previously, and the fact that her stepmom is the one who's, oh yeah, your mom was just a slut and she was a mistress and blah, 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 blah. And your dad didn't leave anything for you in his will and stuff. Like, that was brutal. No wonder she's an evil stepmother. So those are some thoughts on character-focused thoughts. Now just general thoughts. I really like the immediate focus in this season on like the household staff, that like the like first scene, the first shots that we see of this season were of the serving staff like getting these homes ready, getting the London homes ready for their employers as their employers are coming back to London from the countryside. I feel like that set up the whole dynamic between Sophie and Benedict and this like class distinction and like hierarchy. I felt like that set that up really well. And I also like the Lady Whistledown focus on the maid war. I forgot that that was a part of the book, that like in the book we have these, Lady Whistledown is writing about this whole fight between different families because they're fighting over maids and stuff. I liked that, and I forgot that that was even in the book until it came up in the show, and that even further adds to the conflict and the tension between like classes as like Sophie and Benedict are falling in love, and I like that. I also like just like the timing of it, because this is all happening all at once like I hoped it would, instead of happening over several years like it does in the book. I like that there's like this direct correlation between the maid war and Sophie being fired, being kicked out, because we see Sophie's evil stepmom hire all of these new maids right after Sophie's let go, and it just emphasizes how much Sophie was doing, how much she was pushed beyond what any one person, any one maid should do, but she was pushed to that limit. She was pushed to do all of that because of the emotion, because of the relationship, because her stepmother just hates her, because her stepmother is just that vindictive. So I like that. So yeah, I like all of that. One thing that I do want to comment on, I feel like this season feels a little bit overcrowded. And I know that, like, I heard other people saying this when season 3 came out. I felt this way after season 3 came out, that there were just like a lot of new characters, a lot of storylines revolving around these new characters that were focused on in season 3, and so it felt like there was like a little bit too much going on, a few too many people to focus on in just 8 episodes. And I feel like this season is pulling it off better than season 3 did. It doesn't feel quite as busy, but it still does feel like a bit too much. Like when I was talking about Eloise and how I hope that like maybe we see her like writing some letters or something, and it's just like a little hint, a little nod. It doesn't need to be a big thing. We don't need to hear who she's writing letters to, even if she's just writing letters to somebody. But I don't even know if there's time for that. It's a lot. Not quite as much as season 3, but it's still a lot. So that's something I wanted to mention. So yeah, overall, I'm really liking it. I'm really excited to see the second half come out in a few weeks. I'm liking it a lot better than I liked season 3. So I think, I don't know, season 3 was a pretty big letdown for me, but this one is redeeming Bridgerton for me. And from YouTube videos that have been recommended to me that I haven't watched yet because I want to get my thoughts out before I let anybody else's thoughts sway my own, I'm getting the sense from those videos that other people are feeling the same way, that, you know, we're back. Bridgerton is back. It is fun. It is what we all know and love again. So yeah, overall, those are my thoughts. What do you think? What has been your favorite moment in season 4 so far? Comment down below. There have been a lot of good ones. I personally really liked the ball, obviously. I'm a sucker for a Cinderella story, so I loved the masquerade ball. But I would love to hear what your favorite moment has been so far, so let me know. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble about Bridgerton, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!